So, welcome to Sayonara Cupcake podcast. And my first guest is somebody that is very, very dear to me. I would, I would consider you a cosmic soul brother for sure.
Thank you.
I think that, and you and I have talked about this before, and I said that I think that soulmates don't necessarily just have to be boxed into some kind of like a romantic relationship, because I think that there's been many people in my life that I've just had an instant connect. It was like we were always supposed to be friends. I think that that's just how it was with us. Would you agree?
I do. Yeah, sometimes it just happens. You don't.
Yeah, it's really cool. How I found Anuj, Anuj runs and came up with one of the coolest pages on Instagram, in my opinion. It's called The Legends of Music. And I happened to get onto his page one day. I hadn't been following him, but I ended up spending about 3 hours on his page. And it was
3 hours.
because,
Wow.
yeah, 3 hours. And I think I told you it was just me and my son, and we were just going through it. And he was about 7 at the time. And what was great was that it had a great video, but you took the time to bring a story. And when I later met you, I learned that it was just you sharing what you were learning, because you had this love for all this music. You were learning all sorts of stuff about it. And so you didn't start the page from like a, a way to make a business or to get, money from it. It was just like, I learned all this cool stuff. I'm going to share it and with other people that appreciate it. So my question is, where did this idea come from? I mean, I
Okay.
know it because you've told me, but you could tell people that haven't heard this story before.
So, what you have to know is that music has been a part of me since probably the age of, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8. Obviously, like everyone has external influences that, push you on that path. And for me, it was my older brother. So I didn't discover like all of this by myself. It was him that, gave me my first exposure to it. I think like around that time, this would have been maybe 2003 or 2004, I believe. I was just 8, and it was the era of MP3s, MP3 players. We had just gotten like an MP3 player. He had got one, actually. I didn't have one. And, and in typical younger sibling, older sibling rivalry and fights, we would always like, he would have his, and then I would keep stealing it to try to listen to music, and I would just like be fascinated by the songs that he was listening to. I remember at this time he was listening to Led Zeppelin, The Doors, Iron Maiden, Linkin Park. It was just we didn't have genres at that time. It was just everything. 1 minute you're listening to Black Eyed Peas on the radio, the next minute you're listening to uh, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Then the third minute, you realize, there's a band called Iron Maiden, and they have the song The Trooper, and we would have that song on repeat again and again and again. Drove our parents mad, but so worth it. And yeah, it started from there. So he like on our computer back then, we would have separate folders, but me being the nosy younger brother would always like venture into his folders and like flick songs from here and there, and it would irritate him, but that's how it started. So through that, I discovered the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Through that, I discovered all of this. But that wasn't that. It just like that was the exposure. That wasn't how it started for me. For me, I have like 3 to 4 different memories that come up to mind. The very first one was like when I got my first mobile phone. He was like, "I will Bluetooth you," like back in the Bluetooth file sharing days. This was 2007, I believe. I had just turned 11. I got my first mobile phone, and he's like, I remember it was the Sony Ericsson K320i. It had 8 MB, so you could have just one song. That's it, just
Yeah.
one song. He's like, "I'll send you any one song if you're choosing." So I'm like, I want In the End by Linkin Park. Now, how I knew that song, where I discovered that song, I have no idea. But I remember blurting those words out to him. So how I knew it, no clue. Uh,
And for people that don't know, you grew up in Dubai.
which is probably the furthest thing you would think in terms of rock and roll.
And that's, I think that's what shocked me when you told me this, and then I started telling everybody I knew. I was like, oh my, you have to go see this page, you've got to go check out this page, because it was exciting to me that somebody in a place that I would not associate with rock and roll and um just all sorts of world music, that's my own ignorance, but you had this love and this discovery for it, and so that was super interesting to me.
So yeah, okay. Going back there, so that was the first one. The second one was a school friend of mine. Yeah, back when Apple released the very first wave of iPods. So it was the big fat iPod, the one that, looked like a brick. He had that, and he had a song in that called Evolution by Korn. So I remember listening to it, and the drums was what took me by surprise. Yeah, so that was memory number two. And but the third one is what set me on the path. I remember coming home from school. I had an hour to kill before going for maths tuition, which was horrible. And I had an hour to kill, and I switched the TV on. And I can't remember if it was MTV or VH1, but like the way I'm guessing your generation would have MTV music videos running all day long. I saw the music video for "The Day That Never Comes" by Metallica. It was a Metallica song there, and that was what like got me started on this. So if you ever ask me like what is the greatest song I ever heard, I will always say that, because what a song.
It's funny because, and that's something interesting that you brought up, seeing that on MTV. And um, I'm old enough to say I remember when MTV first came out and it solely played music videos. I mean, and that was it. And then it started to have TV shows and all these other things. But it was such a way to discover music, for me personally. And how do you think, like, I found a shirt at a vintage shop the other day and it said MTV on it, and I brought it home for my son. He's like, what's MTV? And I was like, um, and it was shocking. I'm like, it was this place that used to have like videos all the time. And he's like YouTube? Yeah. You know, pretty much.
Yeah. So like so if you go in terms of phases, right? I had a heavy metal and death metal phase one because I was the angry teenager always yelling and screaming at everybody, and like it was partly because I found something that I felt like gave me my identity.
Yeah.
I didn't
That
I didn't
resonated
know.
with you.
Yeah, I remember at that time there was a lot of techno, EDM, all that nonsense stuff that plays on the radio. That was the craze. I remember all my friends, when what's that stupid song, "Baby" by Justin Bieber came out. How you could not escape it. Every second person used to sing it. So I was just happy that I found something that I liked amongst all that. Because for the longest time, I remember thinking, I can't. It's not me. This isn't me. It just doesn't feel right. I'm not the kind of person that would go to parties and like just rave. Although now I have learned to appreciate that music. But back then I was the angry teenager who loved Metallica, who loved Megadeth, who loved death metal. That was my thing. So that's where it started for me.
And what did your parents think of you listening to that kind of music?
My dad threatened to delete those files. He Yeah, that's a story in itself. So I can tell you another story. We were on a road trip to Oman, and my brother was very infatuated with American Idol back then. And there was this guy called what's his name? David Cook, I believe, who had song what was it? Time of Your Life. Yeah, that's the name of the song. So we were sitting in a car, and he was like, "I'll play some music," and he played this, and I was like, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna play a song," and then I played the song "A Place for My Head" by Linkin Park, and the screaming at the end of it scared them so much that they were like, "Delete it now, delete it now, delete it now," and I was like, "Nope." So I had to improvise. So I would save my music in my dad's, like on our old PC. I would save all my music in my dad's folder so he wouldn't go snooping into mine to delete it. But yeah, I had a fight for this was the kind of music. I used to listen to back then.
Do you still find now? I know that I see you post sometimes, and I think it's really cool that where you're always asking people for recommendations of stuff, or
Yeah,
people will give you recommendations. And do you still find, these new discoveries exciting?
of course. I mean, I have to. I what's the word for it? I have to say you put me on to big band and jazz music so much. To answer your question, I have to say a certain somebody shared with me a playlist of big band and jazz music, which was very educational. I had only known two artists at that time, who was Gene Krupa and what was his big? I'm okay. Here's something about me. I'm very bad at remembering names.
Me too.
I have to keep digging digging in my head for Gene Krupa and the guy who made Sing Sing Sing, Benny Goodman.
Hmm.
I only knew them at that time, so after discovering your playlist,
Yeah,
I got hooked on it.
I was really, really fortunate that my mom and dad both loved music, but their styles of music were so vastly different. My dad was Polish, so there was like a lot of big band, classical music, and lots of polka. And then with my
Yeah,
mom, her being Asian, she was like in love with Western music. Uh, she was always just from an early age giving me music. And I remember, and I always tell this story to my friends because it's a funny story. When I turned 5, the records that I got were Annie, the Broadway musical, and How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? And then when I turned 6, she got me Fleetwood Mac, Blondie, The Cars, Rod Stewart's Do You Think Blondes Have More Fun, Kiss with the Peter Criss cover, and Led Zeppelin Houses of the Holy. That's like, so it went from like cute, girly stuff to just right in it, and just all sorts of genres. So I've been very thankful of that, because and I think that's one of the things that kind of resonates in our friendship, is that both of us love listening to pretty much any kind of genre.
yeah.
And so it's
I
really exciting
surprised
to talk to you
myself.
about it.
I always used to think of myself as one-dimensional before I started this page, thinking that I only like this kind of music. I don't like that. I don't like that. But with time, I don't know how I've come to appreciate it so much more than what I would like. To answer your original question, I started this page as a reaction because I was in university and I could not find anyone, like, except one person who liked this, who had anything in common with me musically. So like music for me is like a make or break kind of a thing. So I could not find anyone. So I'm like, why are people so obsessed with pop music? Why are people so obsessed with dance music? Like, why can anyone obsess rock music? And as you have it, the universe sort of put me on this path of trying to discover the origins of music. I remember this would have been 2014 or 2015. I had gotten really sick of listening to rock music, and I was like, I need to, expand my horizons. I hadn't started the Legends of Music at that point for another 2 years. So this was I was just like I was like I need to listen to something more. And on YouTube there was these top 10 lists from this YouTube channel. I don't like called WatchMojo.com. That became my that became my MTV, or that became my education. Like I used to watch those videos religiously, and that's how I discovered new music. Believe it or not, but I didn't start listening to the Beatles until 2015. I only knew Hey Jude. Like
Yeah,
in
wow.
Dubai, at that point, I used to feel like you had to walk 20 miles to find, someone who'd heard of the Beatles or someone who listens to the Beatles.
Did you
So
come before or after? Were you a part of that MySpace
no,
generation
I wasn't. MySpace was
that came
was
after?
very yeah, I came after. MySpace was happening when I was in school, but it didn't really catch on to it that much as like we got on with Facebook later.
Yeah, I think that for MySpace was so music
Hmm.
centric. I would just remember even on that platform finding a lot of bands. It was so promising at the time, because you could just be a band and put it on there, and you have your friends,
Yeah.
and it was a really interesting way
So
for people to get music.
okay, so here's a story of Legends of Music that no one knows. I had a
Okay.
friend with me in university called Aman. and if he hears this, I will make sure he hears this. But he knows the story now. Others are going to know the story. Okay, so the only guy I
This
met
sounds
in
juicy.
yeah, the only guy I met in university who had the same taste in music in me was him. And when I met him, he was one dimensional too. At this point in time, I had like maybe like 2 or 3 years under my belt of discovering new music. I was heavy on the blues at the time. I had just started listening to Miles Davis. He had like ventured out from 2000s rock into the 90s. I was starting to learn about Stone Temple Pilots. I was starting to learn about go deeper into Australian rock, like just stuff all over the place. I really went deep into all that. And I was like excited to talk about this with people, but there was no one except him. When I met him, he only listened to two bands. Like for him, he could only process music if it was either Guns N' Roses or Metallica, which really frustrated me. Because like I was like the one guy I found who, has something in common with me now only like is like unable to process something new. So
Yeah.
the Legends of Music was like built as a reaction to my frustration at the time. And there were a lot of bands also at the time, who were obsessed with shredding on the guitar. And it just like I would sit in the audience, watch them perform, and I would just like, this makes no sense. Like all I'm seeing them doing is going with their guitar, and I was like, there's no substance, there's no value, there's no feel. I'm just sitting there, watching, bored out of my mind. Coincidentally, at the time, I was listening to rock and roll music by Chuck Berry.
Hmm.
Like I had the lyrics to that song stuck in my head, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start something to convince my friend to start listening to other people, to other bands. So the very first album I reviewed, actually, I can't remember the timeline on which I started, but the very first album I reviewed was either A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead
Hmm.
or Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. One of the two.
Oh,
I can't
wow.
remember which one came first, but I made him read my review for Wish You Were Here, and he started listening to the album and he got hooked. So that was like the very first time I did something.
I think one of the things that I really love about your page too is that it is coming from a place and appreciation and love of music. So it's really positive. It's not you critiquing music saying, oh, they should have done this or that. What I love like about your page is that it comes from a place of love and a place of discovery. As you're discovering bands and you're writing about bands and you're kind of showing your appreciation for it, and there's not any negativity that comes with it. And I've seen people try to make you compare and list your top and choose, and you
I'll
have to
never do it.
choose one,
I'll
and
never do
you don't. But I get it, and some people think, oh, you're being diplomatic or whatever. But I know you, and I know that it's because you can find in everything something to appreciate. And I think that that's
I
really, really
use okay.
cool.
Before I answer your question, I used to hate electronic music. I used to hate synthesizer music. If you had met me as a teenager, I would probably had something negative to say about the 80s. But like the more I started listening, the more I started to appreciate. And now the one band I can't stop listening to now is The Prodigy, which would not have been the case a decade ago. And all my friends who have known me for like say maybe 10 to 15 years ago, I have played songs by The Prodigy for them, and they're like, "You're listening to this? You want to go to a rave? You want to like it just takes them by surprise." But yeah, so um, as as this page grew bigger and bigger, I started to realize that um, everyone these days have an agenda on what is good music, what is bad music, this or that. It's just trying to shove an agenda down your throat. And my purpose with the page was to give back and meet more people. That was my original intention, and I've never like swayed from that. I wanted to meet more people who had this similar taste in music with me. I wanted to meet more people um, who just who just got it. Like there was no ego involved. I'll never say which hair metal band do I like better, which Do I like Nirvana better, or do I like Alice in Chains better? Do I like Guns N' Roses better, or do I like Metallica better? Because each and every artist I listen to, or each and every band I listen to, it's what can I like? I have a mindset like, what can I pick up from this? Is there something um like that's how I'm able to vary my content so much, is because I keep thinking, okay, I'm listening to, like, these days, over the I say the last month or so, I cannot stop listening to the Police. That's all I've been listening to these days. It's been all my, like, I like, even right now as I'm talking to you, I have the chorus for Every Little Thing She Does in Match playing in my head.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because, and maybe you affected my algorithm because I was getting a lot of Police, and so I've been listening to a lot of Police, or it just could be us. Maybe we're affecting each other's algorithm.
I cannot stop listening to the Police. For the last month, I even went and bought two of their CDs. That's how much.
Nice.
Like, for me, I feel that when you listen to music in a tangible format, it just feels different compared to when you listen to it on streaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And I
that's
love
because
that. I love that so much because whenever you find something like on whether it's on CD or sometimes on vinyl, like you send me pics and you're like, look what I found. But I love that because that's coming from just like pure heart, about music. And that's really cool because kids these days, I think there's a resurgence of it, but I think a lot of the younger generation doesn't know the fun, or maybe people are starting to discover it more now, but the thrill of the hunt for music, that was always fun to get a B-side or um, an import only CD, or just a bootleg CD. I remember, going to a local record shop and you can only look for the bootleg CDs if you knew where the secret spot was because they technically weren't allowed to sell them, but somebody would always have them and it'd just be like live recordings of bands in Europe and it was so awesome.
so I went in deep of like websites and forums and just to find bootlegs, and over time I have accumulated like I don't know how many recordings of like bootleg. So the first time I ever discovered what like the meaning of the word a B-side or bootlegs was when I was uh, Radiohead, my favorite band of all time. I bought a book.
Yeah.
I started reading that book, and it was just like I was fascinated by how they used to talk about B-sides, and how like a Radiohead B-side would sometimes be better than a Radiohead A-side. So I'm like, okay. I started like downloading random live recordings I found on YouTube and listening to them, and that's like how I grew with in terms of my appreciation with music. Like, and now my favorite Radiohead song of all time is a B-side. It's like usually songs no one's ever heard of, and they're like, is that even a Radiohead song?
Your B-sides are really important because it was always like, I mean, originally from what I knew of it as a kid, it was like, just the backside of a 45, that was like the B-side. And then eventually to, CDs. Like I remember, yeah, that was so fun. But today it's so easy and accessible for kids to get stuff. Yeah, the B-side, when Napster came around, I remember I wasn't downloading any like albums and stuff like that because I already had the albums. What I spent the time trying to find and exchange with people were just all those bootlegs. Because you just sometimes if you didn't have a chance to go see some band live, because they didn't come to, I grew up in America. They didn't come there. They only really played Europe. That was like the only chance to kind of hear them live. Now you could go onto YouTube, and so I think that we're lucky in that kind of an aspect. But that old hunt, that was fun. The hunt for the
Yeah, and
elusive.
even even nowadays, I can't remember the name of the reporter who said it. Again, I cannot remember names. Someone posted something saying it was like a retrospective legacy review of Susie and the Banshees, and the way he phrased it was one of the few or one of the only bands to have a B-side stronger than the A-side. And that was when I was like, okay, you know what? I'm making it my mission to start listening to only B-sides.
I think there's a lot of great songs that are B-sides. Like to come to mind, tons. Yeah, there's a lot of great bands that are songs that are B-side songs.
Yeah. One thing I want to add is the part that, when I knew this page was taking off, or when I started realizing that, I'm onto something, was I posted a song, and can't remember which one it was. I think it was something to do with Billy Idol.
Hmm.
And someone from California, I don't know, some 75-year-old woman messaged me saying, "You just reminded me of my teenage years when I heard
That,
this."
that's awesome.
And I was like, now what I'm doing is having like a chain reaction like
Yeah.
with people all across the world. And that just like motivated me to start doing more and more. And as I kept doing it, I kept like connecting with more and more interesting people. And I sort of met someone who I will, I'll call him a mentor. Okay, you probably don't know because I haven't told you about him yet. He's out of LA. His name is Christian James Hand. I came across him sometime in 2020, and this is like it's not publicity. I'm genuinely giving a shout out to someone who I feel deserves it. So he used to run this show during COVID on IG Live, which was called The Sessions, where he would break down session tapes, like what makes a song great. Now you have the guy on YouTube who does it, Rick Beato.
Yeah.
I love him. I love his YouTube page. I watch all
Yeah.
his videos, and like
I
I've
was
learned
just
so
talking
much
to
from
somebody
him.
about it
Yeah.
yesterday, in fact.
So he Christian used to do something very similar to this during COVID time. He still does it now, where he used to break down tracks. I think what's it called? Stems. He used to break down stems from like each individual track. So if you, for example, on my birthday, this was around 2020. I asked him to break down Once in a Lifetime by Talking Heads and Love Will Tear Us Apart, and
Mm,
he went down track by track, meaning he played Ian Curtis's vocal track. He played the bass track, Tina Fey's bass track on Once in a Lifetime, the synthesizer tracks. He broke it down step by step, and that man just sort of, what he was doing. It was the voice in my head. Like he was like the stuff that I was going on in my head. He was doing that in real life, and
yeah.
it was just so fascinating to me. Like it built up my appreciation that much more of like what goes into making a song.
Yeah. I think that the stories that you add are great. That those little bits that you add, like you were saying, he's doing what is also in your head, but you're doing it in a different form, but you're bringing that to everybody, and
Yeah,
that's
and
really,
I can't remember if it was him or if it was someone else who broke down Heroes by David Bowie. And when he played Brian Eno's synthesizer parts, that was the game changer for me. That was the turning point when I'm like, okay, now there's one more layer to this. Now I would start listening to synthesizer music. Now I would start appreciating electronic music. I was like, okay, and it just kept expanding my horizon. So yeah, Christian James Hand, he is on Instagram under that name, and what he does is fascinating. Like he is,
we can add a link after.
yeah, he is a constant source of inspiration to me, like genuinely.
One of the other things that I love about your page also is the you do a lot of research sometimes on a specific song or something. You find these little cute stories, and sometimes it's because I don't. Not everybody goes out and reads a lot of different sources of stuff, and you read a lot. I know it's one of the things that you like to do. You just read and research a lot, and so you bring a lot of these really cool stories. And it makes me appreciate songs more, going, oh wow. And do you find that those stories, when you read them, um, did it make you appreciate more, and is that why you
Oh
share
yeah,
them?
yeah. So I have a very weird process when I listen to music. 'Cause if you tell me to listen to a song and I listen to it, it won't register in my head. But months down the line, something random will click in my brain when I've heard when some like what's that album? There's a really cool album by Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds called Who Built the Moon. I heard that album, it didn't quite register in my head, like nothing stood out. Then months down the line, I was looking for a music podcast, and there was this podcast that he had done where he went down track by track. And watching him go through the story and the influence behind each and every track, then I was like, oh my God, I got to listen to the album now. And then I reheard the entire album, and then it stuck in my head. Like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. So for me, the stories are like my way of processing what I'm listening to, you know?
Yeah.
I you may call it nosy, but I I listen to something and I'm like, What's out there? How did this come to be? I gotta.
There was sometimes, I mean, sometimes you've written about maybe somebody that I know, and I read a story and I'm like, I've never heard that. I'll contact them. Like, did this happen? Like, I think before you and I were close, as we were kind of instant friends, and this might be before I contacted you. But I remember reading a story and then going and asking that person, like, did this really happen? They're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I've never heard that story before. That's really awesome. But yeah, I could always tell from the very start that it was all coming from a place of love. Um, Even when I remember seeing a lot of people, you handle what I love also is that you handle what sometimes is, I don't know how you could handle. I don't think that I could do it, but I see sometimes like you'll post something and you'll hear people go, there'll always be those ones in the comments saying, that's not a legend. This doesn't belong on this page. And, um, and you don't really address it, and I think that that's kind of cool because I think it takes a person. I don't know if I have that self-control. Like, I want to be like, you can't judge me, this is my
I
page.
is
But you don't
it's
you don't do that.
I just let it be. I just let it be,
Yeah.
honestly. There's no win-win situation in fighting with the troll.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the name The Legends of Music. I've said this before a million times. I'm gonna say it again. It has no meaning behind it. I just came up with it at 2 in the morning because I couldn't sleep and I needed to give my page something. So I'm like, okay, I'll call it The Legends of Music. I didn't think for a second that it would get this big or it would have. I was just into the Beatles, so I'm like, okay, the Beatles is The Legends of Music. I could call it The Legends of Music.
But
I didn't.
I think that any band that you have, I mean, any band that's out there that's doing something, I do think it's legendary. I always, when I see people, and it doesn't matter what genre, who's the artist, whatever, but when I see like an artist on stage, and then you see the entire crowd singing, and it doesn't matter if it's a crowd of 10 people, or a crowd of 10,000 people, or a crowd of 100,000 people, when you see the crowd singing and being happy and having some kind of experience, that's legendary to me. Like, I think that that's so cool that people can move people in such a way.
For me, if you play music and you stand in front of the crowd and play that music, that's legendary.
Yeah,
I don't
I
care
agree.
if it's a girl a pop punk band or a girl pop band or even something just some person playing with uh, or sorry, a person busking on the streets.
Yeah, I love
If you play
buskers. I'll
music,
always stay
that's
for a busker.
legendary. I would
Yeah,
post about I would post about someone who plays music on the streets. I don't care like if he sold like if his like his music has just one stream or 2 million streams. For
yeah.
me, like if you're doing music, you're legendary. But yeah, to answer your original questions, I don't give it too much thought. There's always going to be someone, and the whole point of the page was for you to raise your voice about music because I used to feel like as a teenager or as in my preteens, like there's a lot of censorship. Don't listen to this music, don't listen to that music. So just voice your opinion. Don't like something, speak it up. So I don't really.
Yeah, I love that you don't engage in it because it keeps it like a really, really positive thing. And I think that over time, maybe it's changed some people's mind because you don't see that so much anymore. I think that maybe in the beginning, when you had little followers, when just starting out the page, of course, those people are going to come out a lot more. But I think that people can maybe change and see kind of what you're trying to spread, which is really cool. Yeah, but I think that that's one of the things that I love about your page, and that's a reflection of you. And I love people that like spread goodness. And I think that that's why I agree with you that anybody that makes music, I think, is legendary because if it just resonates with one person in the world and it makes one person, something that you create makes one person feel better, I think that that's definitely legendary.
And I have to say, um, speaking from personal perspective, the music, you know, in a way gave me my identity, but there was also a time in the middle when I wanted nothing to do with it. I was sick of it, you know. It's like I can't I just can't. There was a time when I wanted to like delete my page and not do this anymore.
I remember one time.
And music was what got me back. Like it I remember okay, I have another memory that just came to my head. I remember driving to work, and I have a Joy Division CD. It's the Substance compilation, and the song Transmission was playing, and I just remember driving, angry, you know, want to punch somebody, want to punch something, and that song started playing, and like I obviously have heard it a million times before, but this that one time was so different from the others, where I was like, you know what, the answer to it all is music. So no matter what happens, like I'm always going to be doing this.
What a strange juxtaposition that must be, though, when you think about it. So, as you're driving, I imagine you're driving into Dubai.
Yeah,
So, you're listening to this music that was from a very post war, industrial, dark place, where that music came from. And now you're going into this kind of like futuristic, bright,
yeah.
sparkly, sparkly
I
world.
don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's just it found me. I didn't go out looking
Yeah.
for this music. I didn't. I feel like sometimes I'm the vessel, and it's just energy that's flowing.
Are there places in Dubai where people go listen to
Yeah,
rock
we have
music a
record
lot,
stores here.
or is it not so common?
There are places in Dubai that people go to listen to music.
And yet they're starting to have a lot more festivals there, correct?
They
Or
come and go.
something akin to a festival?
It's never recurring, but they come and go. Like we get like not in Dubai, but in Abu Dhabi, you have a lot of international artists who come and go. We had Foo Fighters come in last year, I believe, or the year before that, and I think last year or the year before that we had Richard Ashcroft of the Verve come down for a gig. We got the Foo Fighters coming down Abu Dhabi multiple times. Once in I almost this is the story that hurts. So my brother got married on December 11th, 2022, and they were expected to play in Abu Dhabi on December 12th, 2020. And the next day, I didn't get tickets in time. We were all tired and all. And like I was like, you know what? It's the Foo Fighters. They'll come back. And then 2 months after that, Taylor passed away. So I regret not pushing to go and watch that concert. That's my only concert. That's my only concert regret.
So you can always bring that one up with your brother if like remember that time I missed the Foo Fighters for your
Yeah, he
wedding?
would. He wouldn't care. He wouldn't care. Yeah.
So sibling relationships like that. Today the page is over 500,000 people. And growing and continuing to grow. And you have told me, which is really cool, how you've also gotten like so many just like cool messages from people saying like, thanks for the page. And sometimes I know that you've even gotten good thumbs up from people that you actually write about. So how does that feel to, write about people that you have all this respect for, and then on the flip side, they come back to you and you're like, and giving you support and giving you thumbs up. How must that feel? Because I know that that's wasn't your intention, but definitely an unexpected.
I never thought in a billion, or not a million, a billion years that the people who I'm talking about is now paying attention to what I'm posting. I honestly don't have words. Like a long time ago I decided to just not think about it
Yeah.
because I didn't want it to get in my head,
Hmm.
Like it's sort of intimidating in a way, but it's also you just carry on and do your stuff. Like I'm from Dubai. I don't like Dubai is so heavily influenced by celebrity culture. But I feel
Hmm.
like I'm one of the few who just doesn't care. Like so, at the end of the day, I'm just like, get on with it. But it's cool, Like I like to think, people who make music suddenly are like, oh, I wanna write a song influenced by um Tears for Fears, and then someone from Tears for Fears hears the song, and that said person will be like, oh, you wrote a song about me, and one day you're standing in front of the person who you call a hero. I don't know what that feels like, but I can assume it's like the most, it's like the best compliment you've ever gotten when the people
Hmm.
you write about start appreciating your work. I don't think there's like any higher form of, like, I feel I judge the success of my page not by the amount of followers I have or how much money I make. I feel like I've like the moment I've gained the respect or like admiration of someone who I'm writing about, that's when I've hit like the peak.
Yeah. I think that probably it's like I said, that people can sense that your page is coming from a place of pure love. And I think that people that love music a lot of times are musicians, and musicians love music, not just like they like making it, being around it. They get excited talking about it. And so I think that anybody, and I think that that's why I wanted to make this podcast. I just wanted to talk to people about music. And because I love talking about music. You love talking about music. I have friends that we love talking about music. And it's one of those things that there's no end date, or there's no closure on, which is cool. There's always like something new to talk about.
Someone once asked me, "Do you think in 100 years people are still going to be talking about the Beatles?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll make sure of it."
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm just going to ask you, what is a new band or discovery? I mean, and it doesn't necessarily mean like new as they just came out, but just something that you've recently discovered that you're kind of obsessed with.
Uh, there's a band called Silver Sun Pickups. I just discovered them a while ago.
Hmm.
Especially the song Panic Switch. I really like that one. I can actually take you through a couple of them based on my on repeat section on Spotify.
Yeah.
So one of them is okay. So here goes. My top repeated song of 2024 is Paramore. Believe
Oh,
it or not.
wow.
I used to listen to Paramore before, but then I just rediscovered them with their new album, which
Yeah.
came out last year, and I am low-key obsessed.
Nice.
And followed by Malibu by Hope.
That's a great song.
I have that song
That's a
on,
great song.
yeah. And after that, okay, I have Now and Then by the Beatles. I have a bit of a Perfect Circle on there. I have Susie and the Banshees. I have Tears for Fears. Oh, here's one.
Nice.
The Daredevil soundtrack from season 1 of Daredevil.
I'm trying to remember what is Dare. I don't remember the show, but I'll check
Okay,
it out.
there, the
Is it
Marvel.
Daredevil, like the Ben Affleck movie, but not with Ben
No, no,
Affleck?
no. This was the TV show that came out years later on
Really?
which had Charlie Cox. Was that his name? No, sorry. Names. Sorry, one moment. I'll just tell you the name of the actor. Yeah, Charlie Cox. I had it
I'll
right.
have to check it out.
So he played the role of Daredevil on the Marvel TV show Cinematic Universe, and the soundtrack
Okay,
from season 1 of that album is unbelievable. I keep
I'll
listening to it
check it
on
out.
repeat.
Yeah.
Then here's one, Sonic Youth, Sacred Trickster. That is my song of 2020.
It's funny. Sonic Youth is, I wouldn't say Sonic Youth is my favorite band, but it just so happens that Sonic Youth is probably the band that I've seen play live the most, because they're
I
always
am
playing. They were always playing
I
in my youth.
always I always get jealous when people tell me these things. Like I feel like I'm born in the wrong era. Like I know a certain someone on Instagram who like every time I'll be like, I want to see this, that person will go, I have seen that, or I'm going to see that. And I'm just like, damn it.
You know what? Well, I'll tell you a story. In 1999 and in 2000, I remember I was so obsessed with the Pixies. And I was so sad that when they had come around the first time, and I was not old enough to go to any of the places that they played. So it just absolutely made me so sad. And then voila, they got back together 2004. Um, and there's a whole another story somewhere in some other podcast about that. But they came back. So, and look at them now, they're still touring, and they're releasing all sorts of music. So never say never. You
I've
don't
heard
know.
I keep getting told every time I do a post in the Pixies, people keep telling me Pixies is not the Pixies with Akindi, but the stuff they've put out recently with Baz on bass is pretty impressive. I have to say.
Did you know, I just read that Paz has left the
Yeah,
band.
I did. I did.
Yeah, to go do some different things. So it's going to be interesting. I think that, you know, we a lot of times people say that about a lot of bands. Like they might say, for example, like Smashing Pumpkins. If Darcy's out of Smashing Pumpkins, people say, oh, it's not Smashing Pumpkins without Darcy. And it's like, I think that people, bands, everything, we have different iterations of ourselves. And that's like one iteration of the Pixies with Kim in it, a huge iteration. And so much good music came out of that, but it doesn't mean that the stuff afterwards can't be good and can't be appreciated in its own thing. And I love the Pixies no matter what. It's just, there's music for any kind of feeling that you might have, I think.
Speaking of the Pixies, you should see my last post.
Okay, I'll check it out. Do you want me to check it out
And
right now? Oh, nice. I can see it. So, I asked you what is a new band that you are into in Silver Sun Pickups. Is there any other? I'm not. You know what? I find I was kind of resistant. I came to Spotify a little bit late because for a long time I didn't understand. I didn't understand streaming. Like I didn't understand. I said I have all this music on iTunes. Why do I need to listen to it there? And finally I jumped on it, and it has been cool because I do discover a lot of fans all the time. And I have a playlist of, and then I'll put stuff that maybe has only had like 2,000 plays, but I'll find it and it's really, really cool. Are there any bands that you've heard recently and you're like, that's so good, and then you discover they've
Oh
got
yeah,
virtually
yeah.
no
There,
fans?
there's so many of them. But this one has like a solid following. It's like an underground band. I don't know where they're out of. I just found them on Instagram a couple of days ago. They're called Ray Music, RAE Music. I'm just trying to
I'll check them
find
out.
their Instagram handle. I'll send you a link
I
later.
I found this band the other day. It came up, well, I heard this song. I was just scrolling through Instagram and I heard this song, and it sounded really, really shoegazy. And I really liked it. It was really cool. And I think it was called Just Another Sad Song. And when I checked it out, I find it's a bunch of,
I'm reminded about that shoegaze comment you made about the Fugazi cover band playing Fugazi in the style of shoegaze and call it shoegazi.
I have been saying this. Yeah, I've been saying this forever and it's not happened. And that is, yeah, because they had Beatallica. I don't know if you've ever heard
Yeah,
of the band Beatallica. So I
yeah,
always
I
thought,
have.
yeah, they should have a shoegazi,
Sorry,
like
sorry, I didn't
just
mean. Sorry
fugazi
to
songs
interrupt
and
the thought.
shoegaze.
Go
But
for it.
anyways, I heard this shoegaze song, and I click on whatever, and I discover this band. It's called Door Plant, which is short for indoor plant. And they're these teenage Thai kids from Thailand, and they've made this shoegaze song, and it's so good. It's so wonderful. I should ask them to be on here because I want to know, how did a bunch of teenage Thai kids get into shoegaze? And the song is really great. It's a really great song. It's on the playlist that's on the Sayonara Cupcake. Has a playlist. You can click on it in links. There's links connected here and there.
Oh,
So
speaking of old music being rediscovered for the modern times, there's a singer called Cab Calloway. I don't know if you've heard. And I'm in love with one of his songs, which is St. James Infirmary Blues. And it just came up on my YouTube one day out of the blue of him performing that song on the Ed Sullivan Show. And that vocal range, unbelievable. So I just started to realize that pre-1950s rock and roll, there was so much music that nobody's heard of,
yeah,
and and like it just blew my mind at how pure and raw, you know, big band music is, or gospel music is, or blues. Like I'm talking about Delta blues, not the electric blues,
yeah, yeah.
like Fred, Mississippi, McDowell. Oh, they're so like
I have a I call it porch blues. I had a
porch
whole
blues.
playlist because I always imagined these Delta blues just being played on a porch. So it just has this whole playlist of porch blues because I mean it's good. It's so good.
I can't begin to comprehend how cool all of that is. Like it's just one entire era that is just waiting to see the light of day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to see, like, even on Instagram now, I see more videos are getting made of old blues performances, or these kind of Delta blues performances, or even, you see always a lot of Billie Holiday stuff getting thrown around a lot lately. But I think it does give a younger generation a chance to kind of discover this music that's just timeless.
Yesterday was the anniversary of I don't know how many years now since Billie Holiday recorded Strange Fruit. Probably like 1939. So 1939 to 2024.
I remember reading a post about that, about her doing that song, and then listening to her singing it, and it just gave goosebumps.
Yeah. The one singer I always get goosebumps when I hear is Nico from the Velvet Underground,
Yeah.
formerly of the Velvet Underground. That's one of the few singers that gives me goosebumps every time I hear her music.
I'm trying to think, is there anybody that gives me goosebumps? Well, there is somebody that gives me goosebumps every time, but it's opera. Sometimes I cry at every opera singer. I love opera too. I'm gonna get you into an opera phase. We'll do that together.
You just tease the next phase of opera post.
Everybody's gonna blame me. Oh, it's that LV. What is this opera crap? How is this legendary? But it really, that makes me cry. I'm going to tell you a quick Billie Holiday story that I don't know if you know this. But did you know? I remember reading this somewhere, and I always tell people this because it just blows me away. Billie Holiday used to babysit Billy Crystal, the actor. She used
Yes.
to be his babysitter.
Yeah, I
Which
have
can
heard
that's
this.
so cool. Like, can you imagine you just having her as your baby, your nanny, and just hearing her like as she's, I don't know, doing stuff around the house, just singing. You could just sit there like have a private concert.
The most legendary singer of all time as babysitter. That would have been something.
Love her. Yeah. Well, do you think that we can have you back again, just talking about
Definitely,
music? So you can tell
100%.
me like, and what's your next new deep dive discovery? Because you go down rabbit holes like I do. But I always love that you, a lot of I love that you come back to me a lot of times and you're like, oh, I just discovered this. What do you think of this? And you send me a bunch of stuff. And I love that because sometimes I don't know about stuff either. And you're sending it to me and I'm like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank
I
you
will
so
definitely
much.
be back.
Awesome. So everybody should go definitely check out your page on Instagram. It's called The Legends of Music. There's also a lot of connected pages, The Legend of Music TV and Legend of Music Photos.
Oh yeah, there's it's just me
There's a lot of
experimenting with
branch,
different types of
yes,
content. Yeah,
but
I have
definitely,
the mothership is Legends of Music. Yeah.
definitely. And I do appreciate, and I know that a lot of other people appreciate all the hard work you put into that.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the privilege of having you as my first guest on Sayonara Cupcake. What I loved is that you were just gung ho, yes, right away. And
Yeah.
everybody should always have friends like you that are just like, yeah,
I'm always for creative ideas.
you're the best. And I love you, my brother.
Thank you.